Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Keys to Moving the Needle in Your Business Operations. My name is Colin Main. I'm a Director of Programs at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Center, along with our partner Mentor Cloud, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. You can create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using that link in the chat. Entrepreneurs matter, and so do mentors. So we appreciate you all contributing your time. We're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event, so please submit your questions in the Q&A function for us at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. Try to get to them all. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, and HubSpot. We're grateful and humbled by their contributions. Now, during these still unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs that we work with. So I'm going to launch a quick poll to just let us know how you're doing. Are you optimistic? Feeling a little anxiety and survival mode? How are you today? We use this data to help inform the wellness programs that we should be offering to our entrepreneurs because it's a lonely journey and we're here to support it. Let's see, I'm going to end this poll. Share those results. Looks like optimism is in the lead. But understand there's a little bit of survival mode out there and a little bit of anxiety. So hopefully our presentation today will help alleviate some of those anxieties. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest. Rachel Pereyra is the founder of Mastermind Business Services. Rachel, welcome.
Hey, Colin, thank you for having me.
Looking forward to this. Over to you.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the keys to move the needle in your business operations. We're going to do that through evaluation, strategizing, and prioritizing. This is going to be our order of operations today. No need to write this part down. We'll go through it, don't worry. So a little introduction on myself. It's great to be here with you guys today. I am the founder of Mastermind Business Services, a digital operations support agency. I have been in business for myself for almost 2 years now, but I've always been the hustling kind. I was cash office manager at 17, working at my local grocery store, and by 22 was the department manager at Toys R Us. The retail schedule wore me down. Anyone who's been in retail, I'm sure you can relate. And I transitioned into the finance space until the fall of 2020 when I went full-time in my own business. During my time in finance, I often worked a lot of side hustles and odd jobs that taught me skills like bookkeeping, event coordination, marketing, and sales. All of this has informed my approach to business and given me over a decade of real-world business experience at every level, from sales to finance to administration and people leadership. My mission with my own business is to change the world through operations. We're going to do this by removing operational hurdles business owners face on their way to creating impact in their community and in the larger world. So what are our key objectives today? Today, excuse me, our key objectives are going to be talking about what the core strategic pillars are in your business, how to prioritize your workload for your business, and when and how to evaluate and adapt. So there are 7 core pillars in your business. We're going to go through them one by one. Sorry, my screen freaked out a little bit. There we go. All right. So first up is going to be business operations. Think of this as the engine. This covers your business processes and your tech tools. Think of in your business processes are things like your customer experience, your new client onboarding, and you have tools like what you use for payment processing, how you track your project management, things like your method for your sales, basically anything that you're doing in your business that is a regular repetitive process, or the tools that you're using to be able to run your business. Next up, of course, we have your team, which is your talent and culture piece of your business. So these are the people who help your business run. This covers everyone from your assistant to your accountant, your subcontractors to your fulfillment team if you're a product-based business, all of them. The culture piece is how they feel working on your team and the environment that you have fostered for everyone to thrive. Marketing and sales, that's everyone's favorite one to talk about, right? Marketing is how you draw your clients and customers into your brand, and sales is the process of converting them into paying your business for goods or services. They're not the same thing. Marketing and sales are not the same thing, but they do go together like good peanut butter and jelly. So your offer and product suite. This is everything about the what you are selling. What is the structure of, if it's a service, like what is the structure of the container? How are you delivering the services? What are those deliverables? If it's a product, what does that process look like? How does it get from your team to your customer? How much does it cost? All of that developing. So when you're thinking of this pillar, think about creating new offers, refining existing offers. All of that would fall under this. Of course, your financials. So your pricing, your investments, your margins, and your overall business stability. And your client customer experience. So this is how your people experience you and your business from your initial marketing all the way through the completion of work and onto the post-sales nurture, which if you're not doing is a good thing to start doing. The post-sales nurture piece is something that I see a lot of business owners leave out often. But once they've given you their money and you've given them their deliverable, whether that's a service or a product, don't just stop communicating with them. And I don't mean just like every now and then send them another email for, as a sale, especially if you're a service provider. Like myself, you want to have a process in place for how you're going to check on customers. How are you going to find out how they're doing with your deliverable, find out how they're doing with your product? So what is that going to look like? It's another piece to go into gathering good feedback to one, refine your offer and product suite if it needs to be adjusted, or two, for social proof that can go back into your marketing and sales piece. And last but not least, continuing education. The reason why this is a pillar is because you, as the owner of the business, need to continue growing your knowledge, whether that is in the, if you're selling a product, how to make the good, how to make it better, how to make it more effective, or how to make it more cost effective for you, whether that is as a service provider, refining your skills, your tools of the trade, so to speak, or whether that is as a business owner or as a leader of people. It is important to consider this a pillar of your business because as you're growing a business, particularly as a small business owner, so much of your business comes from you. And so if you're not expanding your horizons and learning and growing and developing, then your business will suffer. All right, so let's talk about how are you going to plan with these 7 pillars? Now, a refresher. The 7 pillars were business operations, team talent culture, marketing and sales, offer product suite, financials, client customer experience, and continuing education. So how do you take these and make a plan? Well, a hint, you start with your vision. So what does that really mean? When you started your business, why did you start your business? What led you to start it? What problem were you solving with your business? And then now that you're in your business or you're getting past that initial launching stage, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Like, why are you doing what you're doing and where are you going with it? So some examples to think about. I started my business 2 years ago. And when I originally started my business, the very, very beginning, I was freelancing. And I started it to generate an extra revenue stream for my family so that we could pay off debt, do some more traveling. And then, of course, naturally, the pandemic happened. And with that pivot, I got to spend a lot more time on personal development. And learning that, I really saw a space in the market that was underserved, that I knew my skill set could help. And over time in my business, my vision refined even further to become the very simple mission statement of I want to change the world through operations. It's just a sentence. There's a lot of layers to it, but to give you an overview of what that looks like when you're asking yourself those questions. So in 5 to 10 years, do you see yourself still sitting in the CEO seat? Are you still actively involved in the deliverables piece? Do you see yourself stepping back and being on a board? And are you selling your business? All of these things are important to think about now when you're making your plans now, because we want to build your business, the foundations and refining and get this right now so that when you grow later, it aligns with your overall vision. So we're always moving towards your vision. So keep this piece in mind as we go through the rest of this and as you do this in your own business. It all needs to tie back to what your larger goal is. Why did you start your business and what do you want your business and your life to look like? So now the next piece is aligning your vision and then prioritizing your goals. So when you think about your vision, let's say, for example, your part of your vision is you want to have a large team, and right now it's just you. So you need to be looking at a few different areas of your business. You need to be looking at your offer and product suite to see where the margins are good, depending on what type of help you're bringing in. Are you bringing in subcontractors? Are you bringing in like an assistant, marketing help? Like what type of roles you're bringing in? You're going to obviously want to look at your team, talent, culture piece, but the financials are going to play a role in it, right? Like we need to be able to afford to hire a great team and pay a great team well. And so when you're thinking and planning for your goals, you want to align that with your big vision. So if your big visions have a team, you need to keep in mind that those are some core areas you're going to need to be looking at. So some questions to help you work through this. What has to happen now for your business to accomplish your goals? What does that mean needs to wait, right? Because we only have so much time in the day. And if you, especially if you're a solopreneur in your business, you only have so many resources to lean on. And even if you have a small team, like you only have so many hours in a day and so much budget available to give people things. So keep that in mind. So what has to happen now? And what does that mean needs to wait? Lastly, what tech or team members do you need to accomplish these goals? So as you've sat down and you've written out each piece of the pillar, right? And let's say you've evaluated your business, which we'll get to that step in a second, but let's say you've evaluated your business and you've identified that you need some help in your business operations. Your tech isn't as automated as you want it to be. Maybe it's taking too long for your fulfillment center to ship your products. Maybe your processes are just very helter-skelter and you don't feel organized and like things are on track or you're in control. And so business operations is something that you feel there's a lot of room for improvement. So if that's where we're sitting down and you're looking at it, you're like, wow, I genuinely do not know how to get from where I am now to this ideal goal state. Well, then you've identified that another core area for you is going to be team help, because even if it is a hiring, another agency or business to come in and help you with your operations, or whether it's hiring an employee into your operations who has that skill set, you've now identified that you need these processes and tech tools to be streamlined and organized for you to get to an easier, more open, expansive place in your business. So now we've already identified that you need to focus on developing your operations piece of the team. Again, whether that's a contractor or a full-time employee. The average small business owner can tackle about 2 to 3 major projects a quarter. If you have a larger team, you can take on more, but you want to really try not to overload yourself, which is why I said, what has to happen now? And so what does that mean has to wait? It's tempting to always put personal development at the bottom. The continuing education, personal development piece of your business. It's very tempting sometimes to be like, that's fine, I'll get to it next quarter. But especially in those early days in business, whether you intentionally plan for it or not, you're going to be spending a lot of time learning how to be a business owner, how to get your clients, how to better provide the services or goods that you're doing, how to grow a team. And all of that can be done intentionally when you're making your strategic plan for your business. All right, so let's practice. Let's have a little fun. I'm going to read this out and then drop in the chat what your answer is. You have a business providing marketing service for lawyers, and you have a virtual assistant on your team. And this VA is working for 10 hours a month. You currently have a revenue of $5,000 a month, and you have 5 clients. You feel overwhelmed and underpaid. So this strategy session is to fix this. Where do you start? Let's see. Drop your answers in the chat there. Oh, okay. Give you a minute. All right, so let's see what's B, C, C. I like it. Okay, so far it looks like everyone's leaning towards C and B for the most part. So let's run through these options, right? So in option A, you're starting with hiring more help for your team. You need other marketers to help you pull out of the weeds, right? But what does that really mean? So this means that you have to create a job or role description and start a hiring process and interviewing or start interviewing multiple contractors, right? From there, you also need to have an onboarding or specialized training process for your new team member so that they can support clients without your constant supervision and guidance. So all of a sudden it makes A sound like a really big project. So let's test out B. So sorry, having some trouble with my screen. In B, you start with adjusting your pricing and raising your rates or refining scope for your current clients. But with B, that introduces that if you're adjusting your pricing, you need to convey this to your current clients. So reviewing the scope of the work, you have to decide on a realistic and supportive price, and then review client contracts for like, what are you locked into? Then have that rate increase conversation. And there's always the risk that you can lose the client. So you need to be prepared for that. So B kind of sounds like a big project too. So let's look at option C. So in option C, you create a passive income product to generate revenue while you focus on client work. Well, passive income is great, but anyone who's made a passive income product knows that it is not passive initially. You need to create the product, market your idea, and have a system set up in place for it to truly be passive. So whether that is running your ads or having webinars that run on Evergreen, whatever that looks like. So all of them are kind of more work, right? Like you're already overwhelmed, underpaid, and just stressed out, and it's all more work. Well, it is. There is no Staples easy button in real world business. This is why strategizing and planning your time for maximum impact in your business is mission critical for you, no matter the size of your business. The key to a truly successful plan is establishing your priorities, but still being able to be adaptable. So in that scenario, right, let's go back. There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you answered is what, when you read this, you evaluated and you leaned towards. There is no right or wrong answer. It is important, though, to understand that every answer also comes with a set of steps that you need to do as the leader of your business. So even not making a decision between A, B, or C, or even D, unknown option, like, is a decision. Not doing anything is a decision to continue to feel overwhelmed and underpaid, right? So as a business owner, all of these decisions lead to other mini decisions. So something to keep in mind when you're planning for your business, that if you're feeling these things coming up, right, you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're looking at your margins and you're not getting paid what you need to be getting paid, then the planning piece takes some of that pressure off of you. So if you look at it, right, and you decide to go with option A and you're going to hire someone, you're like, okay, so maybe this means right now I have to work an extra day or a couple late nights, but in 2 months, I'll have a team member who's ready to go, who can take off on clients for me. And then I can look at evaluating my pricing so we can take on more clients at a higher rate to also compensate me for the new team member I brought on. Or maybe this passive income product really is the way to go for this person's business. And if it is, right, you sit down, you're like, again, you put those late nights, that weekend time, whatever that extra time is up front, because you've made that decision and it's easier to live with when you can see it clearly planned out. So very important to have the plan piece. So now you have to prioritize your plan, right? So we've already established that you as business owners, the work is never done. So how do you make sure that your business is running well and you're headed towards accomplishing your goals? So in this piece, you need to set your priorities based on your larger vision for your business and yourself. We talked about this at the top, but it's something to really keep in mind. It's very tempting when you get in that moment of overwhelm or anxiety to make knee-jerk reaction decisions. And it's okay to make decisions that the world might perceive as a backwards slide, as long as you know what the long-term goal is. For example, I've seen in the online business world has really exploded. Like I joined and in the pandemic myself. And so I've really seen an explosion of that. And I've seen with some of the more recent recession talk and fears, I've seen people going back to getting, part-time jobs or, remote jobs or even full-time work. And as a business owner, that doesn't have to be failure. If in your strategic plan, you realized you needed to stabilize your income so that you could then invest in your business in areas wouldn't be able to without that decision. So it's just something to think about. There's no right or wrong priority because it's all based on you and what's important for you in your business. So then you're going to use your evaluation of the current state of business and combine with your vision to establish smaller goals that you're now going to break down by quarter, because you need this to be something that you can tackle. It needs to be manageable. If you were to brain dump all of the things that you needed to do for your business and then look at all of those tasks broken out, it would give you an aneurysm, I swear. Like every time I have done that for myself, even knowing what I know about prioritizing, it's overwhelming to look at all of the things on your plate when you're leading a growing business. So what you need to do is separate. So we prioritize the tasks that need to happen sooner, now, and then we don't need to necessarily keep looking at all these other things. They never go away. There's always going to be more. It's one of those things like when you're leading a business, your to-do list is never empty. It's like being a parent, like it's never done. So when you're breaking down your goals, keep that in mind that you're maybe, for example, if you were to brain dump out all of your to-dos for the entire year and you look at it and you're like, wow, this is a lot. There's some really big projects in here and there's some really small ones. Do you need to do all of the big projects in quarter one? Or maybe could you do like one big project and several smaller ones, or two and a few smaller ones? Think about that when you're prioritizing your workload. Be realistic with your capacity or your team's capacity, like what your business and your life can support. And from there, you're going to take your quarterly goals and prioritize the top 3 as the most important, and then map out the action steps you need to accomplish them. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but not the goal. I love this quote. Keep this in mind, okay? Part of running a business is making mistakes. You see it all the time when some of the big names in business are having their talks, like Richard Branson and the people who have the large businesses that a lot of us aspire to. They talk about how failure is what got them where they are. It doesn't mean that your goal is impossible. It doesn't mean you can't get it done. It doesn't mean it's not possible for you. It just means we need to change the plan. So this is the part where you really, where you really need to be evaluating. So things to ask yourself when you're evaluating your business. So I recommend doing this for a small business owner at least once a quarter, a smaller version of this monthly, or even weekly if it's not going to be overwhelming for you. And again, a smaller version, but compare your goals to what you actually completed. What was missed? So when you look at what, like, you've planned out what you're going to do for the quarter, and then let's say it doesn't get done. Why? What'd you miss? Then evaluate what came up that was unexpected. We all have that. The best laid plans, right? There's a reason why that's a saying. What could you learn from that? So if you had an unexpected thing come up with, maybe one of your team members needed to be terminated or they took another job, that was unexpected. You weren't prepared for that. So that took time away from some of your other objectives to accomplish. So what could you learn from that? Maybe that means that it's time for you to have a process in place for team member disengagements and terminations, right? Review your processes. Are they working? Are they working for you? Are they working for your clients? Are they working for your team? What feels heavy? What feels like you're doing something too much? What makes you, when you wake up in the morning and you open your computer, what makes you go, oh, I have to do that again today? Look at that. That's where you want to evaluate. And then if you have a team, how does your team feel? This is important. It's not just about how are they performing. It's about how do they feel following your processes, using your tech, interacting with your clients. How do they feel as a member of your team? How are they feeling, in this current world as humans? And then how are they performing, right? Are they getting results? Are they needing a lot of input from you? Is there a lot of times where you see yourself changing, evaluating, redoing work with them? Those are things that you want to sit down and look at when you're evaluating. And lastly, but definitely not least, look at your revenue versus expenses. Do the margins you have right now work for your long-term goals? Are you paying yourself enough? See this so often with business owners. It's so easy to not pay yourself, right? To just get into a place where you are just earning the money. You see the revenue coming in and it's going out as fast as it's coming in. And unfortunately, it's not going out to you. So look at that. Really look at your margins. How is it feeling? Like check in with yourself too. Like, how do you feel in your business? Do you feel supported? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel just like excellent? Do you feel chaotic? look at how those margins work for your goals. And then if you don't adapt, you sink, because being a business owner means being flexible. And this is what sets you apart in difficult times, right? So here are some tips to be adaptable, right? When you've evaluated processes and you're creating them, give yourself room for change in the technology of the people executing. For example, something that I've seen when coming into solopreneurs teams is they'll be like, okay, well, Sarah sends this email. It's like, great, cool. I'm so glad that Sarah is helping you on your team, but your process can't revolve around Sarah. It needs to revolve around what Sarah's role is, right? So if that's your client experience concierge, your customer service liaison, your assistant, your operations coordinator, your OBM, whatever title it is, the process should be built around that title and not a person, right? So give yourself that space in your process so it's not so narrow. So it's a little bit more easy to adapt in the event that you needed to, right? Just personal advice from my own experience. Don't take adaptation as rejection. It's not rejection. It is your ability to keep going when everyone else is faltering, or when the world is scary, or when maybe you did get told no. Just adapt. It's not the same thing as rejection, right? So this ability to adapt is what will set you apart in a very difficult business market. And then I want you to evaluate at least once a quarter. Pretend you're an auditor. With my, oh, every time. Sorry, guys. I am sorry, my mouse is just freaking out today. It's not good. There we go. Okay. So evaluate once a quarter, pretend you're an auditor, and find the opportunities. With my finance background, we had a lot of audits, right? So there's state organizations, the state would come in and audit to make sure that we're adhering to laws, we're compliant, that we are doing things the way we're supposed to be doing them, right, with our customers. So everyone's always nervous about an auditor. You're always like, oh no, what are they going to find? But don't be. You need to be impartial when you're evaluating your business. You need to look at it, and not from a place of, you know, your business is your baby and you've created this thing, but from the place of, okay, let me find the areas of opportunity. Let me find where we can be better. Let me find this. And it's not a criticism of you. It's not against you as a person, as a business owner. We all have those gaps. We all have those spaces where we could do some work. And so do yourself a service and come in as neutral as you possibly can and pretend you're an auditor so you can go in and find those opportunities. It really is a good exercise to do before you do your strategic plan, if you can, because it will give you exactly what you need to be focusing on. And you got a little preview a second ago, but to help you out with that, I am giving all of you a guide to help you audit your business and plan out your processes. So in this piece, you will see, you know, it will help walk you through the process of auditing your business, questions to ask yourself, questions to use to document your process. But again, go through it and be honest with yourself, and don't take it as a criticism, because all of us have areas of opportunity. So yeah, I have a link for you guys. And I know that the amazing team here at the center will also send out this info, but there will be some resources that I recommend to clients to help with their businesses there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Everyone's shouting in the chat, wow, this is great. This is great. So really appreciate you sharing your wisdom there. If you have any questions for Rachel, drop them into the Q&A. We've got tons of time to get to a bunch of them. Before we jump into Q&A, I have a quick one last poll that helps us understand what you'd like to learn in the coming months. So is it finance, sales, marketing? All across the board, we use this information to help inform what we should be doing next. So thank you all for voting. Let's see. Ooh, it's kind of a good mix. Very interesting. Well, marketing is at the top, but it's pretty all over the place. Good thing is we've got a lot of these coming up in the next couple of months. So hang on. All right. Let's see. So we've got a question in the Q&A for you, Rachel. What are the financial statements that are must-haves?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you really want to look at your P&L, become intimately familiar with your P&L. That's your profit and loss statement. You're going to want to go over that if you have an accountant or a bookkeeper or a finance CPA, tax strategist, you have a financial advisor on your team, you're going to want to go over that with them and work with people who can explain it to you in a way you understand, right? So if you have financial questions, you should feel comfortable with anyone on your team being able to explain it. There's no dumb questions. I've worked a lot with accountants, and a lot of them they want you to ask questions, and they want you to understand it. They're excited to talk about your money with you. So ask the questions and make sure you truly understand what you're looking at. You're going to want to look at your total revenue, right? Your COGS, or your cost of operating your business. So those are your core expenses that you cannot deliver your product or service without incurring these expenses. And then you're going to want to look at all of where those expenses are going, right? So with that in mind, like if your expenses, if you see that you are spending, like, let's say, for example, you're bringing in 20,000 a month and you see, oh, wow, I'm spending 15,000 of that on my team. Maybe we should look deeper at that expense, because that's more than half, right? So pay attention to those numbers. Your P&L will be a good pulse check for the financial health of your business. And it'll be a good report that once you become familiar with all the categories and you've kind of worked with it a little bit, it'll become very easy for you to pull it up, read it, and really see where your business is at financially. That's a great question.
Good question indeed. And yeah, accountants should be excited about numbers because that's their living, but I don't get excited about them very much. That's why we have accountants. Let's see. Ooh, this is a question that came in before the event, but I think is very relevant for everybody in the call. So how do you balance working in your business and working on your business as a solopreneur?
I want all of your solopreneurs to hear, it doesn't necessarily just magically get easier when you have a larger business, right? It actually gets kind of harder. So if you as a solopreneur can develop these, self-care practices and your boundaries around your time and your energy now, it will serve you in spades as you grow. And I say this from experience. I recently got a second phone for all of my businesses. So I don't have any social media or any Slack or any of my contact apps on my personal phone anymore. Partially because for me, I needed a physical boundary because I couldn't turn it off. I was like, a team member would suck me, or a client would send me an email, or I would be scrolling on social and someone would ask a question and I'd answer it. And I was always working. And so when you're creating those spaces for yourself to balance your time, you want to look at where your energy is. If you feel like you have a lot of great energy, like the beginning of the week, you come into the week from the weekend, and you're like really, really excited and you're pumped up, like maybe that's the best time to have your sales calls and your client calls and put that energy where you need to be on in that period. And then if like Fridays, sometimes you wake up and you're like, I'd rather just skip it today. Try to schedule your weeks so that Fridays are your downtime. Like maybe Fridays you do a little bit of your admin work and then you go to the pool. I mean, it is really hot here in Texas. Or maybe Fridays are, your off day. Like you only work a 4-day work week. Like all of the beauty of being a business owner, you are not married to that corporate 9-to-5 type of structure. You don't have to work Monday through Friday from 8 to 6. You get to determine your schedule. And so really take advantage of that as a business owner and structure that accordingly. So for me, to answer the question directly, on Mondays, that's my CEO day. I don't take meetings and I don't do client work. So sometimes I will spend a Monday during the month doing absolutely nothing. I love to watch reality TV. That's my big, turn my brain off moment. And so sometimes I'll spend Mondays running errands for the house because, usually the kids are in school and I'm just by myself and I can quietly run errands, and all my moms, to walk around Target with your Starbucks is like a moment. But all of that, or I'll spend Monday working on planning out my marketing and batching content, or I'll spend Monday, reviewing, doing the evaluation on the business and doing quarterly planning, really using that time to support me as the CEO and as the leader of the business. And so when you're scheduling yourself, make sure you're leaving time to actually work on your business. If you find yourself to the point where all of your work time is going to your clients, your customers, your team, then you have a problem, which is where we need to evaluate. Because then we're back to that practice question, right? You're overwhelmed. You can't work on your business. You're at this catch-22 of if you can't work on your business, you can't bring new clients in, then your revenue is stagnant. It's harder to invest. So you need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and look at what it is that's monopolizing your time and keeping you from being able to work on your business.
I love that, and all of those answers. Another question here is, what things do you look for when it's time to give yourself a raise?
That is a good question. So I recommend, again, working with your accountant. They're really good, especially from, a tax perspective of what that means for you if you're a sole proprietor, single member LLC, S corp, like all of those pieces tax wise. Look at that. But from like a business owner's perspective, what has your revenue been over the last quarter? Like, are you fairly regular where you're bringing in, or is it like this, right? Look at your sales forecast, look at your pipeline. What revenue do you know you have coming down the pipeline? What can you forecast coming in? Where are your efforts going? And then look at your personal goals. And another thing that your accountant's probably going to want to do with you, especially if you're looking at putting yourself on payroll, is what is fair market pay for your role as a CEO? So all of those pieces will come into play on evaluating if it's time for you to be paying yourself more. But generally speaking, a lot of the small business owners I know don't pay themselves enough in the first place. So if you feel like it's time for a raise and your business can afford it, it's probably time for a raise.
Agreed. So there was a question that came in around systems. And so are there any tools that you recommend that help just facilitate ops across the board, help efficiencies that you like?
Yeah, so for my service providing business owners, particularly for those of you who are working with clients in a regular retainer or in a larger project scale, I like a CRM tool like Dubsado or Honeybook. Both of those tools will let you automate the process from inquiry through onboarding to give you that, so you're not worried about, did they get that email? Did I send them this brochure? So those tools will really help automate it. So they're tools called CRM or client relationship management tools. Dubsado is the preferred one. I use that one in my business and recommend it a lot for clients, especially clients who are newer or don't have larger teams. It can be a very good resource. As you continue to grow, you'll want to choose tools that fit your goals. So, I will. Dubsado, yeah, thank you, Heather. Oh, I saw in the chat, Dubsado. There's
yeah, Heather for the win. Thank you, Heather.
at the link that will be shared with you, I have information for Dubsado as well, but it can be a bit of a beast to set up up front. Honeybook is a lot more user friendly to set up on your own if you're not a tech savvy person, and it does a lot of the same things as Dubsado. I just personally prefer Dubsado. But I recommend looking for a CRM. So the Honeybook, Dubsado, there's a few different tool options if you're in the service provider space. And then you're going to want to look for, if you have a team or are growing a team, you're definitely going to need a project management tool. So that would be something like ClickUp, Asana, Trello. And again, each of these tools has different functionalities and will work best in different use case scenarios. If you plan to grow an agency or have a larger team, I would steer away from Trello and look at a ClickUp or Asana. And some of the tools, like there's tools out there that are all-in-one tools. They can be great when you're first starting. But something that I've seen is a lot of the all-in-one tools do all of it okay, but none of it excellent. And so when you get to a place where you're able to have the mental capacity for it, I recommend separating your tech tools and getting the tools that are the best for what you need in their field.
That's super helpful. And along those same lines, the question just came in, do you use anything like Jira or Trello to organize your projects or brainstorms?
Yes, so I've been using ClickUp for the last, year and a half now. It works really well for me because I have a team of subcontractors that help me deliver client work. And so I can put in the project brief and we can set up all the tasks in there and we all have visibility on what's happening. We can have assignees and due dates. I also do some done for you hiring services. And so ClickUp has a forms feature so people can fill out the form and I can have automations. There's a lot of really fun automations in there. If you like me and really like automating all the tech, that's a good tool. If you're a visual person, particularly web designer, social media manager, a lot of people like Trello because it is so visual and it's very easy to set up and use. And you don't need to have all the fancy automations and forms, especially if you are smaller, like maybe it's you and an assistant. The visual aspect of Trello is very appealing to my creative friends.
Awesome. Let's see. What is a key driver for gaining momentum when scaling a business?
So it's important when you're scaling your business that you really keep why you're doing it in mind. Because something that I've seen personally and with clients and colleagues is that as you grow and as you're really stepping out and putting yourself out there and working, opportunities are going to start throwing themselves at you. It does happen. Now comes a point where you need to be decisive. You're going to have to say no. And as you grow from that initial stage of growing your business where you're constantly hustling, you're constantly like banging your head against the wall, just waiting for someone to tell you yes, it feels very hard to say no. The best way to keep the momentum when you're scaling is to say yes to the things that align with where you want to go, not just now, but also later. So when you're making those decisions, make the decisions that are going to give you the easiest track or the best track or the fastest track, depending on what your goal is, to get to your long-term goal. Some things feel great now, but might not support your long-term goal. And so keep that peace in mind when you're scaling.
Yep. And if you don't set up the systems and then all of a sudden things are much busier, then it gets way harder. So
no, it's so true. It's honestly, yeah, as you grow and it's easy to not have processes documented and not have the stuff set up when you're building a business. But once you get to that place where there's all these things coming at you, it gets very hard to go back and do it. And so as much as we all hate it, I don't mean sit down and write out a formal SOP that like a Google would use when you're starting. But one of my favorite tools that I recommend often for clients is called Loom. You can use it as a Chrome extension. All you have to do, and it's going to feel weird at first, and that's okay, no one sees it but you right now, is screen record yourself doing a task you do regularly and just talk about it. Like, here, this is me sending a contract to a client. So I've opened up Dubsado and I put in their information and this is how I send it, and just talk through it. And then when you're ready to have that operations piece built out, you have those that you can get transcribed. You could have yourself or an assistant write them out into fancy SOPs. But at least then when you do get really busy and need to grow, that will help make it easier to expand your team without so much elbow grease from you.
Yep. And Loom is great. We've used it a bunch of times. And yeah, I had something that I was going to add, but I can't remember what it was. So we'll just roll through that. I think, so how do you keep growth economical? So I know there's a lot of these softwares that cost money. So any advice on maintaining the budget there?
Yeah, so don't get the shiny object syndrome, as we refer to it, right? Just because some new tool that your friend's using, don't just pick a tool because I recommend it or your friend recommends it. Evaluate whether it's actually beneficial for you and your business. So if you're using something and you don't understand it, or something is difficult, or it's taking too much energy from you to manage the tool, then it's time to look at if that tool is really the best one for you. And it can be very easy if you really jump into the tech immediately to spend a hefty operations budget just on setting up all your tech and then automating it all. I recommend really strongly, do this with my clients, get your process first. Figure out how you want to do the thing first before you bring in all of the tech and automation pieces that cost expense, and add to that bottom line. So really get your process as streamlined and clear to you as possible before you jump in.
I love that. And Gina had a question for nonprofit people. Are there a lot of grants for software? And I don't know if you have an answer for that, but I do have a resource for that.
I love drop the resource, but yeah, there are a lot. I have seen grants for nonprofits and for small business owners, particularly, the BIPOC business owners or women-owned business. There's a lot of grants out there, and don't think that just because you're not a nonprofit that you can't apply for a grant. You'd be surprised how much money people are willing to give small businesses. Yep. And maybe there may not be some that are specific for software, but I know there are definitely business grants out there, and I've seen some lately right now that are about growing your team. So, really look for those grants, because don't let money be in the way of you having a successful business.
Yep. And we're a nonprofit and we use TechSoup for a bunch of discounts on stuff. So I think like a bunch of our Adobe stuff is like very cheap. So it's all good. Let's see. Any other questions for Rachel? We have her for another 15, but I got none in the Q&A, which is all good. It sounds like you crushed it. Everyone really loved it. And there's that resource that you sent through that we'll send through the follow-up. So if there aren't any other questions, we'll let everyone go off. Oh, there's a question, of course. Online is a new business, any resource? New online business, any resources?
Oh, that's a great question. So if you are new to the online business space, welcome. And you're going to have a ton of information flying at you. So I recommend finding, if you use Facebook, that's a good place to go. There's a lot of Facebook groups that are niched down for the area of business you're in. So if you're like an ops person, like you're the ops admin space, there's groups for that. If you are a medical practitioner, there's groups for that. Those can be good places to be a fly on the wall and listen to people who've been in business before you and just kind of learn. There's also things like Coursera. Google has some great certificates. There's some lower ticket options. LinkedIn Learning actually has a lot of skills now that would be geared towards helping you with an online business. So if you already have the LinkedIn profile, you can take the LinkedIn Learning pieces. YouTube University. I mean, if you have a tool that you want, like for example, you're looking at ClickUp, they have a YouTube channel. And then there are some amazing ops people out there who have channels explaining tech tools and things like that as well. So use your best evaluation on who you should be listening to. But there's a lot of great resources and communities where you can go and get help and support from people without having to spend your own money, which would be my first advice, is to try that. But also, you just kind of got to get out there. It's the best knowledge comes from doing.
I love that. Yeah. You can read a lot, but doing it, you'll learn a lot more from. And then I'm going to ask Zoe from the production team. Somebody's asking for the link to your business form, so we'll share that. And also in the follow-up resource, another question here. As a business who isn't based on web presence, how do you suggest budgeting a website creation?
Great question. So first, check with your local Chamber of Commerce. I actually worked with the Queens Chamber of Commerce end of last year on a project where they had grant funding to help small business owners get websites. So first, check your local Chamber of Commerce, see if there's any kind of resources to maybe help you get free and or discounted website service. And then next, you're going to want to find a platform that ideally you can manage, especially if you're looking for it to be low ticket. So without knowing what type of business you have, I would think of, like a landing page. Really, when you budget for it, full website creation, design, there's a lot that goes into that. So some things to think about: if you don't already have brand fonts, colors, brand voice, like the copy that will go on the website, those photos, those are pieces that you can organize. That if you already have those, will save you money with a web designer. But a good web designer, brand design, I mean, that can go anywhere from $2,000 to over $10,000. So if there's a resource that you can find to help make it easier, there's some of them like Squarespace and Wix are fairly user friendly, and you can throw together a landing page with someone who's, you don't have to be the most tech savvy. It's not hard coding, but you do have to, know how to set it up on the computer. But I mean, I would recommend using a tool like that in the interim, and then you can always grow into having a web developer come in and build you something from scratch.
Yeah, and often there are a lot of templates out there, but having a pro set it up similar to your accounting, I would just recommend, because if something breaks, and then having an expert there is always helpful. And also you get what you pay for. So I wouldn't say the top tier or the bottom tier, and somewhere in the middle, but depends on what your budget looks like or what your goals are too. If again, the question was around for somebody who isn't selling stuff all online, so you need a brochure that looks good enough for people to know where you are and how to find you, but you don't need all these fancy bells and whistles.
And don't forget to set up the Google My Business profile. That is free, and that will help drive traffic to your website. So if you're going to have a website and you're not going to invest a lot of money and time and energy into blogging and other SEO pieces to bring people to your website, Google My Business is a free way to help pull traffic in. So if someone searches the name of your business, it'll pull up like a listing, and people can leave reviews, and you can add content, and it's great. And LinkedIn has the best SEO. If someone searches your name, your LinkedIn pops up real quick. So make sure that's optimized too if you're going to go through doing a website.
Cool. And yeah, you spoke about the Google for Business. We're partners with Grow with Google, so we actually have a bunch of webinars around Google Ads, setting up your Google store on our YouTube page that we can share with you all. So yeah, they have a ton of resources that if you didn't look it up or attend one of our webinars, you would never know. Is there a way to Google my business for home-based businesses? I have a challenge with this because they don't accept virtual addresses. Ah, yes. So I guess they're asking what do they do for their Google business account for their home address?
So do you have, I guess, really like virtual address in the sense of like you have like a co-working space or something that receives your mail, I guess? Go in. I recommend checking out the resources on Google Tools because I'm not a Google Tools expert. I had that set up for me, but I would recommend doing it. And so check out the YouTube videos. It's, from what I've seen from the help articles, it is fairly straightforward, but I don't know the answer to that specific question.
Yeah, and it sounds like they didn't want to put their house on there. So, I mean, I think you could just get a PO box relatively cheaply if you wanted to get away from that. And just get people for mail. They won't publish your address.
If you are just starting out and don't have a budget, what would you recommend? So this is ironically a good time to really plan, right? You've just started out. What are you evaluating? Look at what you need to do. So it depends. I typically work with service-based businesses, so that my next pieces of advice are going to apply most to service-based providers. But look at what your offer is. What are you offering them? And then get to know your clients as best as you can. Show up where they are. Listen to them. Talk to them. Get in as many conversations with them as you can, even if it's not a sales call. Even if it's just like a, hey. Also, if you're a service provider, like let's say, for example, for me, I provide operation services. So when I first started out, I was meeting a lot of web designers and social media managers and marketing strategists because I don't provide that. So we're not competition. So you start that, it's a long game, but you start that relationship and you build upon that relationship with someone who is, also serves your ideal client. And you guys can send business to each other as that relationship grows. It's a nurturing, it's part of relationship-based sales, but that's where I would start. If I had to do it all over again and I was just starting out right now, I would make sure that I knew what I wanted to offer. I knew who I wanted to help, even just a rough outline. And then I would just start talking to them as much as possible.
That's awesome. All right. Keep these questions coming. One more question. So does Calendly, Dubsado, or any other calendar booking tools provide a pop-up at the time of booking with terms that they'd like to need to press to agree before a credit card's charged? So I guess the example is they're agreeing to a cancellation fee of canceling it within 24 hours of the session, or if their credit card will be charged for a no-show. Anything like that?
So I use Calendly. Calendly does have, you can put in your cancellation policy, and then you can opt to include it on the landing page. And it doesn't like pop up like, oh no. But you can also tell Calendly to include it on their reminder emails when they get it. I don't believe Dubsado does when you're booking an appointment through there, but I believe Calendly and Acuity, like the standard, I guess, online scheduling tools, have that option to add in a cancellation policy. So just making sure that somewhere you state that, so as a disclaimer, so people know.
Great. All right. Any more questions, folks? These have all been great. Is that Calendly?
It's Calendly. Calendly.
Calendly.
They have a free version. So
Yeah.
Start there.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, it's been a pleasure to learn from you, and it sounds like everyone else has really appreciated it. One more question. All right, we got time.
Yay.
I'm a one-person business offering consulting. Rather than giving my personal phone number or Google Voice number to those coming to my website, what are some decent services that offer a recording of incoming calls that I can integrate with some other CRMs that don't necessarily break the bank?
So I don't use this in my personal business, so I can't suggest an actual service, but I would recommend Googling recording services. A lot of them that when I did do this research years ago, were manned by people, and the ones manned by people are always going to be more expensive. Google Voice is kind of a good alternative because it will take your voicemail and you can see it visually. But if you're really looking for like a 24-hour, like either manned phone line or recorded phone line, that would be a separate service. And depending on what CRM you're using, like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, something like those, they probably have, or Infusionsoft or Keep, they probably have good integrations that they might recommend. So if you're looking for something that integrates with your CRM, I would start with your CRM and ask their help desk, do they know of any of these and do they natively integrate with any of them? And that would be a good place to start your search.
Love that. Great advice. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us to share your wisdom and expertise on this. Operations is something that not enough people concentrate on until they're too busy, and then everything starts to fall apart and it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. So appreciate you contributing your wisdom and expertise today. And I'm sure everybody else did as well. We're getting lots of thank yous. So thank you so much. And we'll be following up with more of your materials for everybody after the event.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. It was great.
So thank you so much. And for those of you still on, we'd love for you to join our upcoming webinar. So take a look at that link in the chat. You can also give us some feedback on what you'd like to see in the future. Hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to welcoming you all back online soon. Have a good one, everyone.